This is going to sound a little odd, but there are sounds that the body makes when you are finally ready to let go of what your ancestors could not. And sometimes you don't even know what's happening until your breath changes or your voice breaks and something sacred moves through you that cannot be explained with words. That's what happened to me recently. So today, this is not just a story about physical pain that I'm sharing with you. This is about what gets passed down through wombs, through silence, through DNA, through generations, and what finally gets to be set free.
This space honors all paths of connection, healing, and family, grounding ourselves in sacred teachings as we are anchored in ancient roots, ready to rise from the soil of our past. I'm Michelle Irene Stupski, here to guide you through stories, insights, and spiritual practices that will help you heal and rediscover your true belonging.
In this particular moment, I cried, I screamed, and I begged. And then 2 ER visits later, I still had no answers, still no relief. And in the darkest hour, the kind of night where your soul feels raw and your body is so tired and it becomes unfamiliar, I was left with only two things: my breath and my faith. And so I called on what I've always called on in the midst of a storm: my angels, meditation, prayer, conversations with God, and then crying out to my angels again. And one night, something changed. My cries shifted into something else, a sound I had never heard before, and it was not from myself. It most definitely didn't feel like mine. Each release was a dramatic ah or a sigh that came from someplace deep within me through a voice I'd never heard. And at first, it frightened me as I thought, what the hell is happening? And as it continued in between the screams of my pain, I heard the whispers of my ancestors, and I knew exactly what it was. Some of the pain I was dealing with was ancestral. It was the echo of many women from my bloodline and my adoptive lineage, two threads forever intertwined. Women who had no voice, who held worlds inside their bodies, but never got the chance to speak their truths. It was their grief that I felt, the grief of the ones who were never held. It was their silence moving through me, the silence of those who carried everything to the point of where I was and who were never asked, how are you really doing? I didn't know their stories. I didn't know their names, but what I heard and what I felt was so profound and real that it cannot be denied. I recognized that I was carrying their stories, even though I didn't know their stories. My body broke open and their pain came pouring out through mine. There were nights that all I could do was walk. I was up at 1 a.m., 2 a.m., 3, 4, 5 a.m., sometimes walking on the treadmill. I couldn't stretch out these muscle spasms. I couldn't sit. I couldn't lay down. Not because I didn't want to, but because something had a hold of me, and it was a grip that I could not shake. My muscles were seizing, they were spazzing, they were locked in pain with no release and no relief inside. And the nerve pain that came along with it, it shot through me like lightning, up my back, through my chest, into my arm, and down my right leg to my knee, and then further each night. That pain would travel further until eventually it reached the tips of my toes. And in the middle of one of those nights, the breaking point, as the pain moved down my leg and fire bloomed, yeah, it bloomed across my spine. And I screamed it. You are not my pain. You don't belong to me. You don't belong here. Your pain is not mine to carry. I didn't plan to say it. It came from somewhere deeper, somewhere older. And again, in this instant, I knew what was happening. I was in the middle of an ancestral release. And this happened in between the screams and the cries and the prayers, when I was doubled over, pacing the floor, begging for relief, when nothing helped. When I couldn't sit still because sitting still, it felt like torture. This wasn't just physical pain, it was so much more. But in those moments, it wasn't. There were nights that I couldn't be still because the pain had a grip on my body. It was fierce and unrelenting, and my muscles, they would seize without warning, and the nerve pain, it just continued to climb through the rest of my body. And when I couldn't pace anymore, when the walking became too much, I ended up sinking into the bathtub, sometimes 2, 3, even 4 times a night. And trust me, this was not a luxury. This was for survival. The water became my refuge, the healing waters of my soul, the only place I could feel slightly weightless. And even as the pain pulsed beneath the surface on a lighter level, I would press play on my meditation album that I created years ago, Back to Me, and I'll drop the link below. And I would breathe. I would breathe light into the pain and discomfort. Not because it made the pain disappear, but because it gave me a way to be with it. Practicing moving this sacred light throughout my body and how to speak to my cells, because healing was happening. And I would repeat to myself, healing is happening. I would hold myself when no one else could in the middle of the night alone. And I called upon the divine mother of my soul, the sacred mother of the earth, and I asked for assistance. And I've done so much healing over the years, decades of study and work with world-renowned teachers, energy work, somatic work, inner child healing, hundreds of clients that I've worked with that I've witnessed their deepest transformations. And yet, here I was in the middle of the night, terrified beyond belief, because this pain was like nothing I had ever known. And I knew I called this in, not on purpose, but I knew this pain held purpose. Because a year ago, when I began writing my new book, the one that I thought was about my adoption journey, I unknowingly invited in a deeper truth to rise, a deeper level of release. It is a deeper level of remembrance. And I kind of had to laugh because I know the score. Just when you think you've done all the work, just when you think you can't go any further, Spirit will show you another layer. And the Angelic Light Council, it doesn't offer surface level healing. They offer soul level transformation. They offer fire, not to punish, but to purify. And here's what I want you to know. If you're in something like this, a pain that medicine can't name, a grief that won't speak in words, you don't have to go through it alone. You need someone who understands the soul and the healing of this space for transformation. Someone who can hold space without trying to fix you, who can help you name what's happening so you don't think that you're losing your mind. Because let me tell you, to be truly honest, even with everything that I've learned and everything that I've taught, this experience, it really scared the hell out of me. And the medical professionals in my area, they did nothing. But once I realized that part of this pain was spiritual, something began to shift within me. The healing could begin. That space opened to allow the light in. And it didn't stop hurting immediately, but because I stopped carrying what was never mine to hold. Just today, my physical therapist said, I can't believe how quickly you have recovered from this injury. With all that I've been shown while writing this book, it became clear through this past year, word by word, memory by memory, that I was writing something much deeper. Inside the book, I talk about how the pages began to bleed beyond my personal story, and they reached into the depths of the souls of so many. My writing became a ceremony, a remembering, and I realized that the pain I was carrying wasn't just my pain, and not just from this experience, but from life. This was my mother's pain, plural, her mother's pain, plural, and all the grandmothers of my lineage. Because when you're adopted or estranged or abandoned from your family, there's a grief that doesn't speak in full sentences. There's this longing that exists in the cells of your being, not just in your thoughts, not just in your soul. And as I wrote, I wasn't just healing the story, I was actually rewriting the soul contract. So this morning, as I sat on our back terrace overlooking the pond of wisdom, we collectively, my husband and I, built with nature on our land. The fog on it began to rise. And it wasn't just a mist. It was this movement, deliberate, graceful dancing like the breath of water. And then it began to shift. Figures emerged, forming in the center of the pond. And it might sound crazy to you, but they weren't just gathering around the pond. They were coming through it. They were moving and making their way toward me. And I recognized them instantly. The angelic light council. And just as I've seen them in meditation so many times before this, I was now seeing them in physical form. They were present in this moment with me, moving with grace and purpose, not just to surround the pond, but to surround me. I didn't feel fear. I felt honored, and I thought, this is so cool. It was acknowledgement and a sacred presence that was whispering that we see you and we celebrate you. Well done. I knew what I was witnessing to be true. It wasn't imagination. It was full-fledged confirmation. It was a holy mirror reflecting that what we heal in silence is never unseen by the divine. Which brings me to this month's angel, because we are being held by the angel of soul remembrance. She is a gorgeous light being of divine presence that helps you remember the truth beneath the trauma, beneath the pain, the story that is underneath the silence. She comes to awaken what your soul never forgot. It's a remembrance where little bits and pieces begin to appear in such ways as deja vu and synchronicities and whispers. And then you receive that insight and that wisdom. She doesn't just arrive in the light, she is the light. She arrives in the unraveling, in the discomfort, in the sound that you didn't know your body could make, and in the surrender that breaks you wide open so truth can rise. She reminds us that you're not just healing yourself, you are healing for the bloodline. And if you're adopted or raised by someone other than biological relatives, you're healing that lineage as well. Your pain is not wasted. We are all connected, and it's a map home to who you've always been. It's the path to your sacred soul self, the place that I call our one true home. And what does this mean for you? And what can you do right now if you're in pain? I'm glad you asked. While I don't have all the answers, I do have some tools that work really well. But first, I have to tell you to go ahead and feel the pain. Let it stir up some dust within yourself, within your inner self and your higher self, and feel the feels, as they say, and do it without guilt or judgment or shame. And then when you're ready, try one of these tools. Put them in your bag of tricks or practice them every day to maybe avoid any spiritual pain that comes your way. Tread lightly, because as we heal, we wipe out some lessons from our sacred plans and more will appear. And I'm going to tell you some are super simple, they're easy peasy, and some, well, go back and listen to the beginning of this cast if you need a reminder of how hard they can actually be. And I don't say this to scare you, but sometimes we don't have the guarantees that this will work. But I do have this guarantee that when you come out the other side of this fire, there is something profoundly beautiful waiting for you if you choose to walk that way. I'm always here if you need assistance. Just reach out and we can set up a time to chat. But now, here are the 3 gentle but powerful practices that I'm going to offer to you. So if you need to, press pause right now, get out your journal and pen because you may want to write these down. Number 1, soul sounding. When you're overwhelmed, let sound move through you. Don't try to control it. Cry, hum, moan, sing, sigh. Sound immersion is one of my favorites these days. The frequencies and vibrations help wiggle out the bad vibes and carry in the new. These are ancient codes. This is nothing new. This is ways that the body releases what words cannot carry. Let yourself express without editing. Number 2, soul whispers for journaling. Write this down. What is my soul asking me to remember right now about who I am and where I come from? Let that be your doorway today. Breathe into it. Bring the light. Write it down. What is my soul asking me to remember right now about who I am and where I come from? Close your eyes, breathe in and breathe out 3 times, and then listen. Then write, because your soul, it already knows the way. And number 3, hold a dual emotion. Say it out loud. I can hold pain and peace. I can feel grief and gratitude at the same time. I don't need to choose one or the other. Healing, it's not about either or. It's about holding space for both. So if this episode moved something in you, if you felt that lump in your throat or your belly or a soft ache in your chest, know this: you are not alone. And inside the Divine Angelic community, you'll find free resources to support your spiritual practice, from guided meditations to angelic messages, soul prompts, and rituals that gently guide you back to yourself. You don't have to know where to begin. You just have to begin. And we'll walk with you. And if you're longing for live connection and gentle accountability, I invite you to join me in the Back to Me program. It's a sacred monthly gathering on Zoom, so wherever you are, you can connect. This is a place that we come together to release shame and reconnect with truth and remember what it means to feel whole again. This is a space where you can just be. No fixing, no forcing, just remembering. Because healing, it doesn't happen alone. It happens in safe, supported spaces, in the sacred mirrors, in the healing waters, in soul-led communities. So I do hope you take a look and join me. Thank you for joining me today on Angels, Adoption, and Ancestors. My name is Michelle Irene Stupski, and I am a spiritual life coach, and I'm happy to connect with your light. Have a beautiful day.